Our next speaker is Neera Nundy, and Neera is the co-founder of Dasra, of course. She has a highly accomplished background that is available for all to see in your bio packages or online. But what I want to focus on is Dasra and Indiaspora have a strong relationship that goes back several years. Neera and her husband Deval, and indeed the Dasra team, have been at several Indiaspora events. We have attended their Dasra Philanthropy Summit in the United States several times and been, speakers and partners. And there is Neera and Deval and the Dasra team have been a force in philanthropy in India. We at Indiaspora, as a platform and catalyst, were delighted to hear about one of their new initiatives, and I don't want to steal the thunder. Neera herself will come and speak about that. And several Indiaspora members have got engaged with them and been involved in what they're now trying to do. So let me just invite, without further ado, to the stage, Neera Nundy.
Thank you, Sanjeev. And thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for all of you staying here and willing to listen. So I thought I'd talk about GivingPi, but before that, I'd really try to ask you to reflect on families and how I really believe family is everything. And so perhaps for most of your life, you think you're self-made, that you're self-sufficient, that you pretty much did everything on your own. But the more you think about it and the older you get, the more you realize that you're either going to credit your family or you're going to blame your family for where you've landed. But actually, there's bigger forces that come into play than just family, and it has a lot to do with where you're born, the country you're born in, the kinds of social attitudes that exist where you are, the institutions that influence economies, the social structures, and actually it has a whole lot to do with luck. And so this is my paternal grandmother, and she immigrated to Canada in the late 50s to do a residency in psychiatry. She fell in love with my grandfather, that was her medical professor, and they both had a dream of starting a mental health hospital way back in the 50s and 60s, but unfortunately my grandfather passed away of cancer, and my family immigrated to Canada. And lo and behold, my mother, who was the first electrical engineer from IIT Kharagpur, and my dad, also an engineer from IIT Kharagpur, we were left in non-gender stereotyped careers. That was our only option. My sister and I had to either do science or engineering, and I wasn't very smart, so I did math. I thought I'd build a career in actuarial science, only to realize that that's a pretty lame career. But anyway, I ended up in investment banking in Morgan Stanley. I worked in New York in M&A. That's actually where I met Deval, and we said, this doesn't feel very fulfilling. Let's do something more meaningful. He said, let's start something like Dasra, and I said, you're crazy. I went off to Harvard Business School, did my MBA, then I saw he was having so much fun in India, and so we joined forces, and basically Dasra came alive. But that's a little bit just of the background, because I'm very thankful for Indiaspora. These kinds of organizations didn't exist, or platforms didn't exist when we were growing up. And so as you reflect on family, we see a very tight connection between family and philanthropy. And a lot of what we did at Dasra was trying to build this bridge. But I want to take you back 75 years ago, and Amit also spoke to this as well, and remind ourselves that philanthropy and families have been integral to India, even pre-independence. I don't know how many of you know that Jamshedji was on a boat, on a cruise, going to Canada from Japan, where he met Swami Vivekananda, and basically Swami Vivekananda mentioned to him that India really needs to move its people away from cotton and semi-finished goods to manufacturing, and his dream was really to start what ended up being the Indian Institute of Sciences. And he actually wanted it to be both humanities and science. It ended up being only science. And so Amit spoke to the dream of Ashoka, which I think is very exciting, another family collaborative of sorts that has both sort of humanities and science. But to remind ourselves as we Celebrate India at 75, that we had these kinds of families and philanthropy. Then came Gandhiji, who was a big movement builder around not just independence, but the trusteeship of wealth. We still, to this day, hear many, many families that are involved in philanthropy with us, large industrialists who made tremendous amount of money being giving to the freedom movement. And what we believe, just as Amit said, is that we're at an inflection point today that we see new wealth and old wealth really being catalytic in philanthropy. So what I wanted to do, sort of lay out the history of families, but also a little bit of history of the Dasra family. Many of you here in the audience are part of the Dasra family. You either came through an organization that we've supported, many of you came through our Dasra Social Impact Program, but what we really started to do over the last 23 years is move from supporting one-to-one to recognizing the force and power of collaboratives. To, again, what Amit was saying, you'll see a lot of our work move towards focusing on different issues and outcomes and finding ways to engage different kinds of stakeholders. And really that moves us all the way to being issue-based, to what I'm most excited about is our launch of GivingPi. Really, it's nothing new, but it's just a way to bring families into philanthropy, into a network that we can support them. And we, I mean all of us, can support families in unlocking a type of giving that's different from CSR. It can take a lot more risk, it can be far more patient, an incredible amount of skills, influence, and leadership can come from families. And so what is GivingPi? Basically, GivingPi is a network where you're already giving to India. It is not a fundraising network. We've already, excitingly enough, reached 85 families. We had a goal of 75 families to celebrate India at 75. And that momentum is exciting, but what we're most excited about is to start engaging this group. What started this GivingPi were actually families and leaders who said, as philanthropists, let's build a platform for philanthropists. And so I just wanted to take a moment to recognize all of these friends that have been part of the Dasra journey and willing to commit to GivingPi, both funding and their influence. And what that allows us to do, actually, is provide these kinds of services to the network. We're going to build this peer network. We're going to bring each of you who come with expertise to this community and really start to look at this community. Where is this funding going, and can we ultimately foster collaboration and learning? What we're super excited about is also this Young Philanthropy program, because we've really seen that philanthropy is intergenerational, and that if we can bring young people into philanthropy and begin to influence them, we see that there will be more giving and there will be more risk-taking that we really need to be able to see. So it's a tremendous opportunity. There's a lot of giving that's done in India that actually isn't tracked. You know, we start with our giving at home, in our families, then we move very closely to the communities. But really, we feel we can actually have potential to unlock a lot more than even what we see in CSR. We've projected out a growth rate of around 25%. I know Amit will say it will definitely be 2 times, 3 times that. But really, we need to build this momentum and this network. Finally, this is our aspiration and our dream. We really believe that with your support, with the momentum we're building, we'd like to see this network grow to 5,000 families. And with 5,000 families, we see the ability to be influencing around $1 billion to the sector. And we really see this as transforming India, where 1 billion thrive with dignity and equity. So please join us in this network. There are different ways that you can participate. Thank you, Indiaspora, and good luck for your next 10 years.